Hello again. For those amused by such things, I give links in the description to this video to Penguin Books Inclusion Guidelines and their latest Diversity and Inclusion report. Penguin Random House have announced that their commissioning policy is that by 2025 their authors will reflect UK society in terms of skin colour, sexual identity and disability. I have never in all my life heard anything as mad as commissioning books according to the amount of melanin in a person's skin, or whether they prefer to have sex with men or women. But there it is. Unless we assume that Penguin Books are currently operating a colour bar and refusing to publish brilliant books by Africans and Caribbeans because they are black, then the only possible way of achieving such targets would be for them to start publishing novels which were not sufficiently good to make it in the open market, just as long as those writing them have black skins. As it happens, writing novels in English is something which in Britain is more an aspiration of white people than it is those of Indian, Chinese or African origin. That does not, of course, mean that members of visible minorities are not capable of writing good literature. I've mentioned before people like Buki Emechita, Samuel Selvin and so on. It means rather that some minorities would prefer to aim at being doctors or footballers, pop singers or athletes, lawyers, other things. Penguin are publishing on the site to which I give a link articles about things like demystifying the publishing process, because presumably they think that black people and gay people and those with disabilities are not capable of going to their local library and consulting the Writers and Artists Yearbook to find out how books are actually commissioned. The only thing you ever get by setting aside a certain number of places for people in this way because they are black, homosexual or in a wheelchair is second-rate goods, in this case second-rate writing. People have to be absolutely determined to get themselves published, and there's really no shortcut. Without the fierce desire of putting in a huge amount of work and getting rejected countless times, no writer has ever produced anything worthwhile. This madness is going to end badly for those who like good novels. Besides which, the whole concept is hopelessly flawed, as anybody can see. Why should any field of artistic, literary, sporting, musical or athletic achievement reflect the UK society in terms of sexuality, skin colour or disability? I don't get it. I strongly suspect that 85% of those in the field of rap music are not white. And I will also hazard a guess that 10% are not of South Asian origin. Does this mean that we should introduce diversity targets here so that the people in the rap music industry and the performers reflect the UK society, so that 85% of them are white and just 3 to 5% are black? Is it necessary or desirable for those working in rap music to reflect the community? If not, why should this be so with the writing of novels? What about jewellers, architects, footballers? Perhaps I want to spell out just what is really happening, because nobody will ever say it out loud. Just as the Arts Council is now insisting on diversity quotas for classical orchestras, to which they give grants, so too with writing novels. The only things which are being targeted are those associated with traditional high culture, and the aim is to put a stop to it if humanly possible. There can be no reason for insisting on diversity quotas for classical music, but not for rap music. any more than there can be for wanting such targets for novels written in English. When last I was in the Lake District, funding was being cut to some voluntary groups involved with walking and climbing. The reason was that not enough black people were being involved in walking up the hills near Windermere. Nobody was stopping them, they simply weren't keen on that kind of thing as a rule, and that meant the funding was taken away from some groups. In short, the kind of things which white English people seem to like doing, whether this is walking up hills in the Lake District, listening to an orchestra playing the Planet Suite by Holst, or reading and writing novels, is viewed with great suspicion by many progressive and left-wing people. It is things not reflecting the community, talking of that sort of thing, it's just an excuse to try and put a stop to it. This reminds me strongly of the kind of thing which used to happen during the Cultural Revolution in China in 1967 and 68, when attempts were made to rid the country of traditional Chinese culture, things like Confucianism and respect for the elderly. In those days, as now, it was older people who were viewed with disfavour, and everything centred around the young folk who were felt to be amenable to having their mind moulded to the new way.